Right. Just going to hold on for a couple more minutes until we get a few more people and give people a chance to join. And look, everyone's starting to join. That's great seeing everyone coming in. So we will start in a few minutes. So please just hold fire. So just to make sure you're all aware of what you've let yourself in for, just this is going to be, we're going to be talking about the Fathom and Reask partnership. So that we're going to be starting in about a couple of minutes time, just going to allow a few more attendees to join in. One more minute and then we'll start. I think 2 minutes, I think that's about right. So good afternoon and welcome to the Reassurances Joint Data Partner Spotlight webinar with Harry Vardigans of Fathom and Stephanie Powell of Reask and Shubharup Ghosh of Reassurances. Given the recent announcement of the partnership between Fathom and Reask, we welcome you to our joint webinar. This webinar will cover high-level methodology and product offerings from Fathom and Reask. The webinar will also cover recent Hurricane Ian post-landfall data and how such products can be accessed through the Enhance and FactFinder data platforms. Additionally, it will highlight the importance of the Fathom and Reask partnership and what will come in the near future. So just to introduce you to our speakers, so you know who we've got talking to you today, but I'm sure most of you know them. So we've got Harry Vardigans, who leads Fathom's insurance business development, helping clients get the most out of Fathom's data. He joined Fathom in August 2021, has a background in physical geography, and has been in the insurance market for 6 years. Then we have Stephanie Powell, who's Reask's head of relationships with a focus on ensuring client success. She has been in the insurance industry for 18 years and has extensive experience in catastrophe, risk, portfolio management, and event response. Prior to joining Reask, she worked for 11 years at a catastrophe modelling vendor, managing a wide range of clients from global brokers to the London market. And then Shubharup Ghosh is the Vice President of Data Services of ImageCat, and he also leads Reassurances, the platform and data initiative from ImageCat. He is involved with multiple exposure data development efforts, applications of risk models, and systems for government and insurance clients. And finally, myself, I'm Sue Barenbrug. I've been in the insurance market for over 30 years, in various analytical capacities, and for the last 18 years or so in catastrophe modelling, both leading and consulting in global and London market companies and syndicates. And I am an advisor to ImageCat and Reassurances. And just to tell you, today's webinar is being recorded and the recording will be posted with a link sent out to all registered attendees. And we will cover questions and comments at the end. So firstly, I think it's over to Harry, first of all.
Hi, everyone. And yeah, thank you for joining the webinar. I will just bring up some slides now. So yeah, thank you for joining the webinar. I'll just give you a brief overview of Fathom, our products that are available via the ImageCat's platform, a little bit into our hazard map methodology, and covering a little bit about climate change as well and what we're doing in that area. And again, how you can access this via the Enhance or Fact Finder platforms. So a little bit of background about Fathom. We were formed out of the University of Bristol. So our co-founders were studying their PhDs there. One of whom was sponsored by Willis to do their PhD. So they had a little bit of insight as to the data being used in the insurance market. And they saw from that that what was being used in the insurance market was very early science, and perhaps what they were studying for their PhDs and creating as part of their PhDs would be very useful for the insurance market. And they were told this by multiple people they spoke to. So they decided to form the company, as I say, in 2013, and that they formed initially with the aim of providing comprehensive water risk intelligence, so hazard maps and catastrophe models for the globe. And with that academic background, being linked to the University of Bristol, research has always been a critical part of what we do, and it will always be a critical part of what we do moving forwards as well. It really underpins our model development, and we will publish everything going forwards as well. So just quickly to address a few key differentiators for Fathom. This is what we think makes us stand out, why our data is useful for you as insurance practitioners. So just to list these off, number one is our integrity and openness. Two is the cutting edge science that underpins our data. Three is the climate dynamics. As I say, we'll address that a little bit later on what that means. And then four is the accessibility part. Obviously, this is accessible via ImageCat, Enhance, and Fact Finder. So it's important that you get in contact with Schubert and ask him about Fathom and Reask data. Anyway, just to dive a little bit more into each one of these points. The integrity and openness. So we, as I say, have an academic background, and as part of that, we like to, write papers, publish those, make them available via our website, and also get them peer reviewed and published in world leading journals. So that is part of the validation process we go through to make sure that you guys are using the best and most relevant data. And the other one is we look to partner with people with similar ethos, similar values, and Reask, we believe, they fit into that category. They like to publish peer review as well. And so hence the partnership that we are talking about today. The cutting edge science, just a brief example of this. We ourselves, I think we're one of the first flood modelers to produce our own trained data set that we now deploy across our global model. I'll go into this again in a little bit more detail later, but this has really managed to advance what we're able to do from a pricing point of view, from a point of underwriting point of view, for global floods, 3 different perils. So that's coastal, pluvial, and fluvial, anywhere you want in the world. We also have our climate dynamics element to this. So as I say, we do this by taking an ensemble of multiple scenarios, and then we sample from that. So what we'll be able to do, not only providing you with a current view of risk, so that's a 2020 view of flood risk, but we will be able to provide you with any future climate scenario for any future time horizon up to 2100, anywhere in the world. So it is fully comprehensive. It is covering everything you'll need to do. And we know that different insurance companies will have different views of future climate risk. Different regulatory bodies will have different views, and different regions across the world will have different views. So we need to be flexible, and you'll be able to use Fathom data flexibly when getting those different requirements from different stakeholders. And as I said, accessibility. We have multiple ways of accessing them, but in particular, one of the best ways is via the Enhanced platform. So please do get in contact with Shrewsbury. Just going into a little bit more of our history, as I said, we were formed in 2013, and that's when we're founded. So we're a relatively new company, but our research, our science, and our co-founders predate that all the way back to 1992, when our chairman and one of our co-founders, Professor Paul Bates, published the first paper describing a 2D flood model. And really, any flood model that is used in the market, any 2D flood model that's created, really can trace its history back to that first paper written by Paul Bates. And since then, we continue to publish all the way through up into this present year, and including that recent FabDem paper and product. And I will go into a little bit more about that later on. So these are the current products you can access via the enhanced platform. So we have our Fathom global maps. We have slightly higher resolution areas as well, where we have better fidelity data, and we can provide a more comprehensive view of risk. So that's for the US, the UK, and Japan. And we can also provide risk scores as well. So the previous products I just mentioned there are flood depths at certain return periods. So that's 1 in 5 to 1 in 1,000 year return periods. And you get 10 different return periods. The risk scores really bring that all together, and it will, particularly in a point of underwriting area, you can get a single location, plot that into the enhanced platform, and then you'll get pinged back a risk score from 1 to 100, and it will tell you how risky, how exposed that particular location is to flood. So just to cover this FabDem, I think it's worth having a slide of this by itself. What we have here on the left, we have MERIT-DEM. This is the previous best global terrain data set that you can really use for flood data. On the right, we have LiDAR. So LiDAR is the gold standard. I say it is the gold standard, but it is not global. We are lucky enough to have benefit from LiDAR in the United States, in areas such as Australia and Japan and the UK, but we don't have it as global. So you need something to fill in the gaps where LiDAR isn't available. And that's where we developed FabDem, which is placed here in the middle. And you can see just from these images, the FabDem sort of sits in between MERIT-DEM and LiDAR as a next best terrain model that we use. So in our global flood model, we tie in FabDem outside anywhere where LiDAR isn't available. So where we do have LiDAR available, we will use it and you will be able to access it. But the key thing is that FabDem is the next best thing when it comes to flood modeling. And just to show you this on a nice little video, it's nice to look at some slides that are very still, but sometimes some visuals sort of hammer this point home. As again, we have MERIT-DEM on the left, FabDem in the middle, and LiDAR on the right. And this really shows just a quick simulation of a flood in Australia, and just providing that view and proving that it really does sit in the middle of MERIT-DEM and LiDAR. So if I just click off this, it did work earlier. My apologies. There we go. So what does this mean? Why do I keep talking about FabDem? This is a new product that we are launching next week on the 27th of October. And again, as I say, will be made available via the enhanced platform. It is a global 30-meter resolution. That will be the, I guess, in inverted commas, worst resolution you can get. So that's 1 arc second for the scientists out there. We'll have 3 hazard layers, so that's pluvial and fluvial, so inland flooding, and we'll also provide global coastal flood maps as well. That will be current and future climate scenarios. As I said, any scenario, any future time horizon up to 2100 anywhere. And it's using FabDem and FabDem Plus. So the best available LiDAR, and where LiDAR isn't available, we use FabDem. We'll also provide some risk scores, and that will be next year that we provide that for you. But that will again be launched on the ImageCat platform. So just to go over a little bit about some fluvial modeling. Obviously, there's 3 sub-perils, but I thought I'd just pick one that I can talk about today. we've talked a lot about terrain, and that's very important, possibly the most important input into flood modeling, but it is not by far the only input into flood modeling. Another thing that Fathom do differently is we map out all the river channels globally. So we have mapped every single river channel, 100% of river channels all around the world. And it's really important to represent river channels. It's not often done in this industry. Sometimes you just get a terrain data set and throw some water over there. And the reason why it isn't is because it's actually really difficult to do. But to be able to model when a river will overtop and actually the physics and flow of water over the Earth's surface after it's overtopped the river banks, that really provides you a better view of risk. And it really is important rather than just filling up a valley with terrain data. So we do this using, again, it's available via our website, something called the channel solver. And we actually model these river channels separately to the actual terrain. So we fill up those river channels. And then once those river channels have been filled up, taking out river gauge data, we then overtop it onto the terrain data. And then that represents the actual flow of water over the terrain. So what this actually looks like, this is, again, another map that we did. This is based in the US. And so this is using some of our high resolution data. We had LiDAR available here, and that really helps with the river channel mapping as well. And this is a nice image of a certain flood at a certain return period for you. It's very nice showing you images of theoretical floods at certain return periods, but how does this actually stack up in reality? And so this is a little bit from our event response and a little bit of validation that we've done for Hurricane Ida. So what we did here is we took in rainfall data and river gauge data from the actual event, and we didn't do any calibration. We just plugged it straight into our hydraulic model. And then we wanted to see what we produced, what the event footprint looked like. And this is the results that we got. So to show what this actually stacked up against some satellite imagery, we were pretty happy with how the hydraulic model performed. I mean, there are particular areas here as well where you can see you have increases in the surface, so they look like little mounds that did not flood, and those are also picked up here and here on the hydraulic model. So we were happy with how that performed. And so if you have any information or you'd like this footprint, please just get into contact with me, and I'm happy to send that over to you. I've mentioned the launch of Global 3. We do have a webinar that we are doing next week to go into the actual details of that. So it will dive into more of the science than what I've covered here today. So please sign up, log on to our LinkedIn. So that's Fathom-Global. Please follow us, and then our most recent post will send you to a link to sign up to that particular webinar, where again, I said we will cover more of the science around how we've done this Global 3 flood mapping. My email is also there. So that's h.vargens@fathom.global. And the webinar will be run in the morning for those people on sort of Asia Pacific time, and then in the evening for the European and North American time zones. From that, I will stop sharing and pass back to Sue.
Well, thank you very much, Harry. That was very, very interesting. And so now we're going to listen to Stephanie and hear all about Reask's offering as well.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. Just to confirm, Harry, can you see my slides before I get going? Okay, since you're on video.
They look lovely.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today, and a special thanks to Shu Group and team for asking us to participate in his Data Partner Spotlight series. It's really important for us to continue to work with all of our third-party data providers, and I think there's a special place for us, especially with Fathom, given that our data is already, both of our data sets are already available in ImageCat. So it's definitely appreciative for you to give us the time and let us talk about what's important to us today. So just a little high level note. I'm not a scientist by trade. My background has been actuarial science, cat modeling, whatnot, as Sue's mentioned earlier. So everything's going to be at a very, very high level. So after the presentation, if you have any further questions that start to get scientific or about details into the actual science behind our product offerings, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to discuss anything further with you. So first, I'm going to start off with our approach and why our approach is important, and then I will walk through each of our data products. So a little bit of background on Reask, similar to Fathom and what Harry went through with you. Our team was founded 4 years ago, and it was founded with a team that has a technical background in atmospheric and climate science. Today, we still have this expertise, and that knowledge is growing amongst our team, but we've also added the business side of the team, and we've got over 70 years of experience combined in the insurance industry. So we do have a lot of background in insurance and helping insurance companies get the best out of their products from model vendors such as ourselves. Reask's approach is to use new and novel technologies along with computational power to understand climate and climate data. We do this in a very agile way, and today our primary focus has been tropical cyclone to date, although we do hope in the future to expand our data product offerings, such as right now we're working on a surge model. Reask takes a unified approach, which is global, connected to the climate, and dynamic. It's global in that it's consistent and the same methodology used across the globe, from hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico to typhoons in Asia, and it gives that standardized view of risks across the globe. It's connected in that our model is not just across geography, but across different perils as well. So we maintain and correlate risks as we bring additional perils online, such as flood with Fathom, and these risks will be correlated. Now, somebody might ask, why is wind and flood, not surge, particularly really important to think about. So Hurricane Ike happened in 2008. I live in London now, but I was based in the States in the middle of Illinois, and Hurricane Ike happened. So as a cat modeler, I was doing all the analytics and whatever for our insurance company. As a hurricane, quite big hurricane, but there was a severe convective storm that was coming across the Midwest as that happened. And I was one of the people that actually got a flooding, had a claim against my insurance company because my basement flooded because of that convective storm and that wind that just kind of came up and lingered. So it's, it's really, from my side of things, I definitely see that correlation between two just from my personal experience, but it also starts to demonstrate that importance of that correlation. And also we can capture this global climate pattern signals such as INZO. So if there's a correlation between different regions, this will show up in the nat cat losses at a global scale versus it being region specific. And we're also dynamic. So we continuously update views of risk and incorporate new and relevant information because we know that some of the views in the risk in the market can be outdated. So our goal is to bring the latest science and variability in the climate into our current view. So we have a baseline view that remains consistent and will be updated at a regular cadence in the future, but we're also able to update at a faster pace just because of how our approach. So we have the ability to update the global models at one time versus having to do a review of each regional model, which means we're able to move pretty quickly. So our stochastic event set generation is climate connected. That's one of the key benefits of our model and our science. I'm going to put this very, very simplistically. Again, I'm not the scientist, and I'm happy to connect you with our technical expertise in this area. But we take the global climate models which is the input, and we use machine learning, both supervised and unsupervised, to look for those climate patterns. And from those, we create the stochastic event sets. Now, the benefit of this is we're able to do this on any climate model, and it can be done very quickly, as I've just stated. Now, the output, as you'd suspect, is similar to what traditional catastrophe modeling output is, but by using that machine learning, we can get there much quicker, and we're able to slice and dice this data in many different ways, which are of interest to model validation teams or teams who want to take advantage of the most up-to-date climate science in their CAT modeling workflows. So once we have our stochastic sets, what can we do with this? We can condition the models using that different climate model input from what I've shown you before. And as said, we're able to generate many different outputs based on the inputs used. We'll discuss each of these a bit in the future, but I just want to demonstrate our three main views right here. So when we talk about baseline view, that is our current view. The importance here is that we can also create different views of this, such as looking at the ENSO pattern we're currently in. So if we're in a El Nino or La Nina cycle, we can create that view and you can analyze your risk via that. Seasonal forecast is looking month by month during an active season, active tropical cyclone season, what physical changes are occurring, and providing an adjusted track set and accounting for these changes using the data that is most recently available. We also are able to look at future climate, which looks at what the climate is predicted to be in the long-term future based on physics predictions, such as the ASO SST anomaly. We are also able to provide a range of different time horizons, which is not tied to a year limiting view. So whatever that time horizon that is of interest to you as a company, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 2080, that's a view that we can create for you. And I think another really, really cool thing that we're able to do with our models is we're able to explore alternative climates. And I think the interesting part of this is something that we do to kind of stress test our models and stress test the physics of what's going on. So, at what point does sea surface temperature and how hot it gets not drive any more or any significant more hurricanes or severity of those hurricanes in a given region? To me, that to me is like one of the cool things that we're able to do by far. So I think another really important note is that because of our approach, it's global. So we're able to create all of our products at the global level, and all of our output is on a 1 kilometer resolution output, and it's using a consistent global framework, which is really important because, again, you're not having to revalidate different regions. Once you understand the framework and believe in our framework, you can consistently implement our outputs across the entire globe based on where a portfolio is at. So now, having set that very high level foundation, I'm going to just quickly talk about each of these products, and I'll dig in a little bit deeper on a couple of them. So the first two products that we have are DeepPsych and Foresight, and these are our climate-connected probabilistic hazard views. DeepPsych is essentially our baseline and our current view, and Foresight is where we start to talk about our seasonal and our future forecasting views. Then the two others after this, after events happen that we have are Hindsight, which is going to be the standard offering in most insurance companies, which is our rapid event response. And then Metric is our parametric solution. And I think I mentioned terrain correction, which is when you're looking at what the land is used for. Something that's really interesting is we can provide outputs without terrain correction in this. And for the parametric solution, that becomes important because it simplifies the view of what a triggering mechanism is. And our metric services can also provide historic and probabilistic views of risk to help price and structure parametric solutions. I don't want to go too deep in this today, but know that because all of our products are the same, if you're underwriting parametric solutions, definitely feel free to reach out with me, and we can further those conversations with you. All right, so going into deep psych a little bit further. From our tropical cyclone track set, we are able to create global return period hazard risk maps at different return periods on a 1 kilometer grid resolution. So for example, here you see the 100-year return period map for the hazard in the US. Reask is not limited to 100-year return periods, and we can provide any critical return period needed for your business decisions. Some benefits of these include that they are terrain corrected. So I said that already. All of our standard products are terrain corrected, and so that's just a benefit you get of all of ours. And then I think that another thing I think is great is that these go as far inland as the tropical cyclone exposure is there, the tropical cyclone risk is there. So we aren't confined to the states which border the coast. And yeah, sure, while the further inland you get, the less likely you are to have a loss from wind. Still important to understand all of the locations exposed, because this is thought to be maybe a bit of an attritional risk, but it could be a very big risk if you have too much exposure as you get too far inland. All right, so talking about how we validate our models. So validation of models, as you all know, is very important for any catastrophe model. It's interesting to note that Reask doesn't actually do model calibration. So we can't go back and calibrate our view to match what was in history. We have to let the climate drive the risk. This is because we take a physics-based approach, and we're able to create our tropical cyclone sets based on the actual climate conditions. So that being said, validation becomes a very, very important step to demonstrate our models are in line with expectations with what happened in the past. So for example, here's how we perform when we do that validation work with category 3 or higher. And you can see that we kind of perform what's within expected within the IBS track set when we look at those. And this is a fairly standard model validation metric used in the industry, and looks at how our models respond in terms of tropical cyclones per year and different dates across the US coastline. And it also then starts to look in the past. So I do also now want to mention that we also use a third party, Maximum Information, which is led by Tom Phillips, who's externally validated our models. And it's really important given, we don't have that calibration step. And also, just to validate what we've seen given through our validation work, that this is accepted in the industry, and that there is somebody who is peer reviewed and given us their stamp of approval for it. Now with him, when he's looking at doing a hazard validation, there's 4 key components that he looks at, which is the confidence and appropriate use of the model given realities of the underlying peril, how uncertain sensitivity may play into the decisions and portfolio structuring, where the model could be iterated in the future, and where the model offers novelty over broader industry offerings. If you are interested in seeing this validation report that he's created for us, I'm certainly happy to provide it for you. Because I think one of the things that Fathom and Reask are very proud of is our transparency in the market. And that's definitely something that we do want to continue to do as we grow as a company. So now I'm going to move into our seasonal and our future climate views. So this is our seasonal view and is adjusted throughout a hurricane season. So for the US, we released the first set of data and a report in June, and we update it monthly throughout the season. And for the US, that's October is when our last report comes out. So it just came out about 18 days ago. This example, this example is actually the beginning of the season. And as you can see from our first release, our expectations of significant events, including the likes of Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Fiona, were well established at the beginning of the season, with both events passing through regions of expected positive anomaly compared to the long-term rates. For insurers, this can be used to determine if extra precautions should be taken, such as, if you're pushing your hurricane coverage, maybe in the Gulf Coast, maybe you can look at that and say, hey, actually, I need to increase my reinsurance purchase a little bit. So it helps you make decisions as the season's happening versus having a reaction after you realize like, oh no, we didn't have enough cover to actually expect this to happen this season. And when we start to talk about future climate, because our model is physics-based and based on climate conditions, we can explain from a physical view on how our models react to the climate in the future. So for instance, when we look at the ASO SST anomaly, our model aligns fairly well with this view. Now, again, not the scientist, but I appreciate this view because it becomes visual and it becomes really powerful because you can see the increases and decreases in the region, and it becomes really easy to explain to the non-scientists like myself, who really drive their process on visuals and having like attainable things versus just looking at data. So when you look at the East Coast, sure, it's likely to experience more hurricanes in the coming years. That doesn't mean this doesn't say that there's going to be more hurricanes along the East Coast than Florida. It just means you're going to see an uptick, right? So it's still, if we would look at the box and whiskers plot for this, which I'm not going to show in this discussion today, you would see that yes, the East Coast is rising, but it's still under what you would see in, say, Florida and the Gulf. And then we have our event response. So I'm going to talk about event response, and this is where we're going to talk about Hurricane Ian. I think this is one of the biggest events we've had in a few years, and event response is something I've been passionate about since I've been in the industry. Probably goes back to Ike and me having to do cat modeling for my company, getting results to the C-suite, and not having power in my house for a week, right? And dealing with my own insurance claim. But it is something I am completely passionate about and love talking about events. So as you all know, Hurricane Ian made landfall in Florida as a Cat 4 on the 28th of September. So within hours of landfall, our machine learning process was able to capture high resolution terrain corrected wind speeds across the landfall area at a 1 kilometer grid. For our event response, we do run 100 samples of the event based on the parameters of the event. We take the 50th percentile of the events generated, which produces the best estimate of the footprint, considering the uncertainty of the things we have sampled around, such as Vmax, which is still a bit uncertain at the time of landfall. So we release these footprints after each point of landfall versus waiting for the storm to be completed. So this not only applies when you're looking at like Cuba and the US, but for the US, it obviously hit in Florida and South Carolina. And we were able to release our first footprint immediately after Florida landfall. And then once it hit South Carolina, we were able to release that footprint as well. So I think that's really important, is that you aren't having to wait for that storm to complete its whole cycle and actually it made landfall. If it's going to have a double hit here, like it did here. So these insights are delivered directly to our subscribers and with our partners like Shoe Group in the format of a wind speed footprint. So Reask has evaluated the landfall parameters of Hurricane Ian and compared them to our historical events of similar location and history. This data is also compared to our own probabilistic model to assess the comparative frequency. Across the range of expected wind speeds at landfall for events in the immediate vicinity, this exhibit provides some insight into the rarity of an event of this magnitude with the return period of Ian. When we kind of look at that wider, just a little bit wider area around it, ranging from about 50 to 80 years. So, and what did we see? In terms of shape and intensity, the plot shows that like even Hurricane Charlie in 2014, representing a close proximity for impact, was the 15th most costly storm on record. And with 4 other major hurricanes passing in close proximity to Hurricane Ian's landfall, we've seen 3 in the last 18 years. This region is no stranger to hurricanes of this size. So when we look at this event and other events which hit close to Ian and compare this to our model, they're actually all within an acceptable range given their intensity. So why is this important? It was the most intense storm on record near the landfall area, but our models show that this event was in the range of possibilities of an event that could happen. So key benefits of our model is the level of detail which you can get when looking at location level risks. You're able to disag your locations based at that 1 kilometer high resolution wind speed, and you're able to have an estimate, of your exposed locations within 2 weeks of an event. So I do want to point out that we do have a client that built their own probabilities based on our wind speeds, and it hasn't been for Ian yet. We haven't had a chance to catch up with them because they're still actually busy analyzing their numbers. But in the past, with the previous storm, within 2 weeks of the storm happening, they were able to use their little loss distributions along with our hazard to get a loss estimate out to the industry or to their CEO and to their investors within 2 weeks. And 1 year on from that event, they have not had to adjust their loss estimate. So I think that speaks for the volumes of, how powerful and how robust and how good our wind speeds are. Yes, they are a sophisticated client, and they do have a strong understanding of their portfolio. But it's definitely something that any client could theoretically do on their own with the likes of the tools available to them via ImageCat. And I also think that it's really important to understand and confirm your data and how it responds to any event footprint. And I think it's a really good first step at understanding how our hazard works, given we have a consistent approach and we build using the same framework for everything. So from that current view all the way through for event response. And to me, I'm having worked in the London market for 6 years, or no, longer, no, 6 years now. Yeah. The validation teams here are robust, right? That's not the case everywhere. And every client has their own approach. Some CAT teams are quite small, some are very large. But I think using this as a validation step is actually pretty easy. You're able to have an understanding of your claims as they occur. And while the data in the US isn't always perfect, it's still better quality in the US, and if not the best when looking at other companies. So my next steps to you is that if you're interested, let Shu Group know if you'd like to see the Hurricane Ian footprint within ImageCat as a validation metric. We've offered it, and we will continue to offer it to their clients as a point of validation. And feel free to reach out to me if you want more science, and I will get you the correct science people to have those discussions with. So thanks so much for your time and letting me talk about Reask, and I'm going to hurry up, and Harry and I are going to start to talk about the partnership.
Hi. So yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry, can I just say as well as that just before, if anyone has got any questions, if they want to just write them into the Q&A section, and then I'll make sure that we do get to those at the end, because I'm recognizing that we are getting, so I want to make sure that anyone's got anything, we can address it. Thank you.
I'm going to quickly cover this because I know Schubert wants to go through some slides as well, so we'll only spend a couple of minutes on this. But what is our partnership vision? Why are we partnering together? We want to combine and create the best global climate-conditioned flood and tropical cyclone data sets. That's the vision. That's what we want to provide to the market. So next slide, please, Stephanie. Why are we doing this? Well, there's really been demand from the market, demand from you. And just to highlight a particular case here, Lloyd's published a paper called the Firmatic Review. In fact, they've published 2 of these, and that's really highlighting that Lloyd's syndicates need to get a better handle on their tropical cyclone induced flood losses, and that's been the demand from the market. So we are responding to that, and the reason why we partnered with Reask, we've probably covered it quite a lot here. But we both have the same vision, both very open with our data, transparency, wanting to publish, and we're recognised as, you know, the best in our field. So why not bring the 2 best data sets together? And then this is being covered a lot by the market, and there's been a really good reaction, which we've been really happy about. So if you have any questions, please contact myself or Stephanie. I'll quickly pass over to Stephanie to do the final slide for this.
Yeah. So I think the question is like, what are your product offerings going to be, right? So the first thing is going to be consistent risk scores for tropical cyclone and flood. These are imminent for Fathom, and Reask is committed to building the risk scores and using the methodology framework that Fathom has built their risk scores on. So it will be consistent. The next thing that we're going to build is obviously that combined hazard maps with the global climate conditions for flood and tropical cyclone data. Our first goal is to do this for the US. Obviously, it's one of the biggest exposed risks for flood and cyclone, and one of the biggest insurance industries. So it's really important that we do this. And it's a good place to validate data, because it's a very data rich country as far as analytics for us to get to do that. Once we do that, we will then roll it out for the rest of the world. And then our long-term goal is to obviously build a probabilistic flood and tropical cyclone cat model. That is obviously, too early to comment or anticipate when that would come, but that's definitely where we want to get. And yeah, so that's where we're at. And with that, thank you so much. And I'm going to pass it over to Shubarup, and I apologize for how much time I've taken. I will stop sharing.
No worries. Thanks, Harry and Stephanie. I mean, indeed, a great partnership, and we are very happy, to host your data. And thanks for your kind words. Let me try sharing my screen here. Just bear with me 1 second, and let me know when it is up. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm conscious about the time, but I did really wanted to make a few points about some of the operational aspects of using these data products that Harry and Stephanie so nicely provided enough information for, I think, for the attendees to take away. And if more details are required, definitely feel free to reach out to any of us here. In addition, I wanted to talk a little bit about the scores, and I know this is an emerging area. We are very interested. Fathom's doing something about it. Reask is doing something about it. But I think we wanted to share our perspective on these standardized scores. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about our product updates in terms of the platform. You heard quite a bit about the two main platforms that we have offered, where the full Fathom and Reask data sets are available. It's Enhance, which is more focused on delivering risk analytics that supports exposure management, as well as underwriting. Whereas the second product, which is Fact Finder, it's really more focused on accumulation management. Both these platform leverages our market-leading data market technology, which makes essentially accessing large data sets like the flood from Fathom and Reask's wind data quite seamless into your operations. So, in terms of the Fathom data, as I mentioned, the full Fathom data set, all return intervals are available through both Enhance and Fact Finder. This allows users to conduct a number of activities, and some of these are listed here, such as property level analysis, single site location lookups, as well as portfolio analysis. And the flood data set that Fathom provides, along with the analytical features that are part of our platform, it allows for pre-bind analysis for the quoting procedures. And in addition, the post-bind analysis work, which is also very critical in terms of taking a look at your existing book of business to ensure that there aren't any expected risk concentration, so that you can address it accordingly, is also doable through our platform. And the key operations are really the exposure management and accumulation management features that we provide. But since these platforms already host a number of the client portfolios, the in-force portfolio, the active portfolios, it's fairly straightforward to do a post-event analysis or the impact analysis, as Stephanie was mentioning, using the footprints of the events that either Reask or Fathom could provide. So that's what is one of the key features of our systems as well. In terms of getting access to the data packages, either from Fathom or Reask, you as the end user and end user customers, you're not constrained by selection. In terms of selecting whether you want a single country, a single region, or you want multiple countries, or the full global data set. Flexibility is really the key. Companies can be selective. We are very flexible in providing you with specific areas of interest, whether it's a custom geographic area or any region. So our belief is that this flexibility really makes us kind of unique in the marketplace. Some of the other providers, you have to either get the whole set or there are certain constraints. But working with such great partners, like Fathom and Reask, it has been very, very useful to provide this sort of flexibility that we have been able to provide to our end customers. Moving along in terms of Reask's data set, Stephanie has already covered a lot of the detail here. I just wanted to highlight the two that are on our platform, the Hindsight and the DeepSight. These are delivered directly through our platform, and these data sets provide a seamless experience of insightful advanced data with the power of our platform for understanding the impact of tropical cyclone risk globally on a client's asset portfolio. And I'd like to mention that the platforms such as ours, we are always looking for new and modern approaches that help in the understanding of catastrophe risk. And our relationship with Reask since they were launched essentially with Nick and Stephanie has been great. Our relationship and partnership with Fathom runs deep. We have been working with both the partners several years now, and we hope to continue this partnership.
And Shubhru, I just want to comment on this, just because these are the only two products that we have on offering with him now. Obviously, as we continue to build our future views, if there's other views that you want, obviously we want to work with Shubhru to make sure that you have those views. If you're on their platform or however. So just because that's what's there now does not mean that that's the endless potential with us.
Of course, yeah, and we will definitely work towards that. This is an example of Hurricane Ian footprint in our Fact Finder platform. This is the hindsight product, which provides high resolution probabilistic wind footprint immediately post landfall. It's a 1 kilometer resolution, terrain corrected, extensively validated product, and actually quite useful for post-event analysis. This service is available globally, so we are working again closely with Reask to bring this to market. Again, these are some of the sample packages that we offer. Again, I just wanted to point out the flexibility, in terms of single layer or multiple layer, single region or multiple region. It really it's driven by the client needs. And with a very loyal set of customers, we are confident in our ability to deliver some of the best available flood and wind simulation products, particularly in developing region and emerging markets at a consistent global scale. So what this means for insurers is gaining an understanding of wind or flood risk and exposure quickly and easily for any asset across the globe. And also, as you can all tell, in terms of the insurance market, that the global CAT model is now a reality with the data sets that Fathom and Reask are providing, and we are currently working together, and we will continue to work together to bring some of these to market. I am conscious of time, so I am going to just quickly mention a couple of things. We heard some of the risk scorings that are being developed by Fathom as well as Reask in the near term. One of the things that we have also been involved in is looking at a standardized hazard rank that involves multiple return interval hazard layers. In addition to delivering individual return interval based maps, and ranks, which we do currently, we have developed this method that allows us to deliver these standardized ranks across multiple return intervals. It is a known problem in the industry that each of the different hazards, such as wind, flood, or quake, typically use different return period to rate risk. For example, flood risk in the US is typically established with a 100-year return period. Wind for building engineering is a 700-year return period, while quake risk typically looks at 475 years. So what that means is like a score 9 for wind in Miami cannot be compared to a score 9 for earthquake in California, because we're talking about two different return intervals here. So in order to address this, we have developed a 10-point scoring system using our global inventory and vulnerability models and hazard damage curves that factor in these multiple return intervals. And this is available, for flood and wind. And we are also looking at other hazards as well, including wildfire, hail, tornadoes for the US. In terms of using the data, it's as easy as just going to our website and start using it. I mean, to access the data for Fathom or Reask through the enhanced website, you can have an immediate access. But if you're looking for API access, there are a few steps in order for us to set up and test. But again, it could be it's a matter of hours that we can provide you access. And some of these post-event data sets, if you're already signed up, we hope to offer them and automate some of these procedures as we go along. We always offer free trial, thanks to our partners. Just contact us, let us know what sort of data you're looking at, what region you're looking at, and we can get you going fairly quickly. I'm not going to go into some of these schematics. This essentially shows the the access to the website, the web portal, as well as standard API requests, either it's batch or single lookup. And then finally, this is my last slide. Where do we go from here? What is our roadmap? look like, in terms of our plans. So we will be providing more and more climate-focused analytics and data, working closely with Fathom and Reask. That's really going to be important and for us a focus in the coming months. Automation integration is again another key focus, supporting our customers in these areas. Integrating with third-party platforms and systems. We are already implementing several of these projects, and we are also expanding it into some of the core providers of insurance, underwriting, and policy systems. And then we are going through some major upgrades to our disaster recovery and as well as resilient infrastructure protocols. So with that, I am turning this back to Sue and apologize. I think we went a little over, but I just did want to mention a few things here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shubhru. That's been very helpful, and apologies for anyone who has to drop off the call. We've had a few questions, and obviously Shubhru has mentioned about how to be able to access this data, but I just want to encourage you all that we will be having more webinars, and there's another one coming up on exposure data for insurance on the 21st of November. And if you do need any help at all, please do contact us at hello@reassurances.com, and we can always pass them on, any questions, to Stephanie or Harry, and obviously to anyone else here. If there's anything that we have not covered, I recognise that we are now out of time, but please do contact us. And there's also, I think, on the next slide, Shubhru, I think we've got some other contact details if you do need to contact any of us. So yes, thank you very much for your time, and it's so interesting to hear. I'm so excited when I heard about Stephanie and Harry and the Fathom and Reask joining up. I think it is such a great initiative to bring together such interesting modelling between the two companies, and to actually such forces in both the in climatology to bring those together. So thank you very much for your time today, and thank you, Shubhru, for bringing it all together. And I hope to see you all again another time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.